Good evening and welcome to Horror Historian. My name is Amanda and tonight we'll be discussing Good evening and welcome to Horror Historian. My name is Amanda and tonight we'll be discussing the 2023 supernatural horror film Malum. Now this movie is actually a reimagining of the 2014 Last Shift, which is a movie that I probably would consider one of the scariest ones I've seen. This one along the same vein, but the director is Anthony DiBlasi. He is, of course, most known for Last Shift. But I find it really interesting that his early career had so much to do with Clive Barker. Honestly, it started to make sense about how we got here. So he wrote this along with Scott Coyley. The stars are Jessica Sula, Eric Olson, and Cheney Moreau. Sula is famous to me due to her role on the television show Skins. She is known for Scream, Resurrection, and she will be playing LaToya Jackson in Michael. Olsen is most known for Raising Helen, Red Red Rose, and Rosie's Rescue. Morrow is most known for Wrong Turn, Haunt, and Mothman, meaning he is a certified spooky guy in my book, and trigger warning for suicide. The movie opens with Captain Will Loren experiencing some kind of psychotic breaks after closing a case involving the Malum cult. A shocking act of violence, Will kills several of the other police officers, shooting each of them before killing himself. He seems to be reacting to something the rest of them can't see, but his death is felt very heavily. Sometime later, his daughter Jessica visits his grave as she prepares for her first night as a police officer. She is met there by her mother, Diane, who she refers to by her government name, showing a strain in the relationship that goes deep. Their connection deteriorated, likely due to Will's death. Her mother is opposed to her daughter following in her father's footsteps, and given the recent history, her concern feels justified. But Jessica is not interested in what she has to say. Jessica's first assignment is one she volunteered for, watching over the old police station before it is officially decommissioned in the morning. The department had relocated to the other side of town, and they're overrun by former cult members coming out of the woodwork for the anniversary of their leader's death, which is that he officially died somewhere else. Most of the cult members are going to be focused on where the police actually are, so Jessica is supposed to be looking towards a quiet night. Her main task is to be keeping an eye on everything. The officer assigned to show Jessica around is a jerk and visibly uneasy. He doesn't provide any direct warnings, but he is constantly looking around for something. His demeanor suggests there's more to this than meets the eye, but asks her to only bother him in an absolute emergency.
The building is eerily quiet, and the atmosphere is undeniably unsettling. When Jessica returns to her desk, she finds a very large man standing outside of the door. He appears to be in the midst of a mental health crisis. His disjointed speech patterns kind of allude to him having some kind of connection to someone involved with the cult. We just never really know who that person is. Jessica initially responds with empathy. However, when he starts peeing on the front door, her tolerance ends. She sends him away from the building and mops up the mess. Hoping that this is the most eventful moment of her shift, Jessica goes to explore her father's locker. It's a quiet moment while she examines what he left behind. It's a small window into the state of mind before his death. When she does another security lap around the building later, she discovers a large pig has been left outside of the precinct. Painted on the animal is a name of one of the victims and a symbol that is frequently in connection with the cult. She guides the pig into a room, leaves it with some water, and puts the problem for later. At the moment, this isn't exactly urgent. The same large man from earlier has returned and managed to find a way into the building. He's carrying an evidence bag and looking like a mess. Jessica pushes him into one of the holding cells, but she's not fast enough to stop the door from shutting behind her. She finds herself locked in and trapped. The power cuts out, and the situation escalates into something much scarier. In the darkness, Jessica begins to hear her father's voice, followed by the sudden appearance of several bodies dropping from the ceiling with bags over their heads. The sight leads her into a panic, but thankfully the door allows her to leave. To make matters worse, she starts to receive strange phone calls from cult members. They taunt and mock her, trying to push her over the edge. She calls the main precinct for help, doing her best to keep calm despite chaos around her. The officer who answers the call each time tells her to remain calm and that he'll send someone over as soon as he can. It's clear that the main station is overwhelmed, so Jessica doesn't feel as though she can push further without being unreasonable, and leaving the precinct just isn't an option. Soon after, she hears the sound of screeching tires outside the building. When she goes outside, she finds a sex worker who had been assaulted by a John and then abandoned. Jessica offers her some peace inside and offers some basic medical care. Although their brief Their interaction is brief. She begins to learn more about what happened that night. The woman tells Jessica about her time at the precinct the night that the cult members had been brought in. That's wild considering that is not the official story that the police released after the cult had been ended. Officially, they died in a shootout with police at the location of their compound. In reality, they committed suicide in the holding cells. She seems to be haunted, even if she wasn't actively involved with what happened that night. But having unstable people singing like that must have been scary, then seeing their dead bodies hanging with symbols of blood on the pillowcases they used to cover their heads. The sex worker decides to leave, and I don't blame her one bit for doing so. Jessica is just having a rough night when she learns from a threatening call that the cult members at least have one previous victim named Monica. It's obvious that this all has something to do with John Malum's cult, so she goes into evidence and looks at some of what they have. Specifically, she's interested in anything that might have evidence of what happened that night. She does get a video, which is an interview with Malum, and it's clear that they are at the precinct. It freaks her out, especially when a bloodied pillowcase wearing demonic figure hops up. It made me jump. I wasn't expecting it. Every time Jessica gets the urge to leave, she contacts the main precinct for reassurance. The officer encourages her, and it might have helped if the singing hadn't started up again. Jessica ends up blacking out for a short period of time and wakes up inside of a body bag. As she frees herself from a terrifying location, the other bags start to move around. She bolts toward the exit, and it's impossible not to understand why she is just done with this job. But while she is getting ready to leave, two officers arrive to check on her. We assume that these are people that the officer sent over to check on her, just to make sure that she's actually okay. They have also experienced some weird things that happened at this precinct, and they were present the day that her father shot the other police officers. They give a little bit of information about her father's state of mind during that time of the murders. He had been convinced that Malum was still inside the holding cell. We already know that where he died, and he most likely was at least not physically there. They also tell her that the gun he had used on the other officers is also kept in the building. It's a shotgun kept in a filing cabinet. Turning their backs to her, Jessica realizes that they are ghosts of the precinct, victims of her father's murder spree. Jessica suddenly realizes that her relationship with John Malum goes much deeper than her father just being the arresting officer. While looking at personal home footage that is at the precinct, she sees videos where John Malum is brought up in reference to her mother. Panicked, Jessica calls her mother and admits that she volunteered to watch the old precinct and that she's terrified. Her mother is understandably horrified that she would put herself in that position. Jessica sprints down the hallway and ends up in what I can only imagine is a gym. In the center of a room is a one-eyed cult member and a hostage, a survivor of Malum's final night of terror. The cultist executes the hostage, and Jessica lashes out, too late to properly save the woman. There's just a lot of blood and a lot of running, shooting at cult members that have filled the building up. She can just keep pushing forward when she comes across an altar and two thrones. Sitting in one of the seats are the decayed remains of John Malum. Just as Jessica prepares herself, the demon Malum has been worshipping makes its presence known. And it is very wet. It's a lot of texture, and it really sells this entire like disgusting aspect of the demon design. Also, its face is a pentagram, which I thought that was kind of cool. In panic, Jessica fires wildly and discovers one of her bullets has hit her mother. She realizes how shattered she truly is, living the same nightmare that her father had forced to go through. He didn't see his fellow officers, he saw cultists. Overcome by grief, she is surrounded by ghosts that happily mock her. With nowhere left to turn, Jessica takes her own life. It is celebrated by all the ghosts in the precinct with her. We're cut back to an older videotape to which Jessica was very young. Her mother was entangled in Malum's cult. It's kind of implied that he might have had something to do with her conception. The man that she had called her father seems more like the man that stepped up when her mother was in need of someone to help her, and things were never quite right. Jessica's body is propped up next to the dead body of John Malum. This is a retelling of Last Shift, and I certainly think that's the scarier movie out of the two of them. That one just really gets to me for some reason. But I appreciate this movie because while it's the same story, we get a little bit more story. I was perfectly fine with that because that was always something that I was a bit curious about in Last Shift. I wanted to know more about her father and what happened the night that the cult has taken in. We certainly get that information, and we learned about how exactly his death went down. I like Jessica Sula's portrayal of Jessica. She seems very innocent and is understandably scared every single time something disastrous happens. She feels realistic, and you want her to pull it together and somehow manage to get out of there. You definitely root for her, even if you know she's doomed. The gore is definitely better, and I love that they went for a solid demon design. It's vaguely human in shape, and there is no mistaking it for a demon. It certainly gives off a Hellraiser level of body horror, which is perfect for a monster like that. I do wish we got a little bit more of it. I will be honest, I think that they could milk one more out of these from me. I would prefer if that was a new story with a different kind of horror going on. But I would like to see more from this director. Thank you so much for watching. My name has been Amanda. This has been Horror Historian. I would survive this because I'm not a cop. And this seems to be a cop problem, and I'm not one.